In today's video, we're going to be taking a look here at these current conditions as there's multiple key components here to the upcoming pattern that are ongoing currently. We can see that there is a storm system moving in through the eastern United States. This low is located over Indiana and Michigan. As this swings to the north and the east, we will see this cold front continue to be underneath it, just like it is here. It'll spread underneath, and we will for a few days see some cooler air, but really, I mean, it's going to be kind of cooler, but nothing like what we saw just a few weeks ago, where it was much cooler than it's going to be in this upcoming pattern. Today, east of this cold front, we're going to see very, very warm weather, very unseasonably warm. And this is kind of the same story of yesterday as well. It was a bit warmer. But after this cold front, we will see much more typical fall weather, I would say. So it's not going to bring us too far below normal temperatures, but it will take us towards normal temperatures, whereas things have been far above normal. Not only that, there is a lot of storminess associated with all of this. We can see as we look out west, there's also a storm system in the northwest, also one in the southwest here, so there's two different components happening out there. We'll actually start out west. We always kind of do this, and we're going to continue to do it. But we can see that there is this big old low right there, and this is bringing some very spotty showers to the northwest. Very spotty, as you can see. Isolated lighter showers of rainfall and snowfall depending on your elevation. Things do get a little bit more widespread as you make your way more into the inland areas there of Washington and Oregon, as well as southwestern Idaho, where there is mixed rain and snow showers that are a little bit more persistent in this area than the northwest there. We also see some snow showers happening here for Montana and Idaho. As you can see, as we work our way just a little bit further south, we have a little bit more widespread precipitation happening here for Utah and Colorado. Colorado, very heavy snowfall occurring, pretty widespread, and looks to last quite a while as well here for a lot of these areas just to the south of that other storm. We can see a little bit of some showery activity here to the east of that region as well. Now, as we work our way further east and further north, actually, we can see that this low located here over Michigan and nearby Indiana, I got that one a little bit wrong earlier, is bringing some precipitation to the north here, which is probably, I would say, the most widespread area of storminess happening with this low. It's going to be here in the lower peninsula of Michigan and the very eastern front here of the upper peninsula as well, although that is moving eastward and moving out for the most part. This is light to moderate to even heavy in a few spots, I would say, especially those yellows and oranges there is where it's going to be the heaviest. Definitely widespread to say the least, though. And as we move our way further south, there is a couple of interesting things happening. Apparently the cold front somewhere in here, I'm sure it's kind of moved up probably to where this front line of storminess is. Yeah, I see the cold front being mostly here, I would say, with that precipitation. So this is probably a little bit outdated. And then we even have this precipitation kind of heading in behind it. So these areas have likely cooled down. And actually, we can kind of just take a look here. Where is this? We can turn on the temperatures here and probably see where this is at. I think it's going to be along here. I think most of the cooling is happening further back. Obviously, that's fairly normal. It's somewhere in there. We know that for sure. And it will move eastward. So regardless, the highest precipitation is definitely out here in front of it. But it seems like there's a pretty tapered cooling. You know, some cold fronts come through and it's a very dramatic 10, 20 degree temperature swing within an hour. This one is not going to be like this. This seems like an all-day taper off of the temperatures, a much softer cold front. And what I mean by that is, you know, the temperatures will very subtly drop as that cold front, that very broad cold front rolls through, if that makes sense. It's not a sharp cutoff. It's a very soft descent into the cooler temperatures, if that makes sense. Now, we do have some heavier pockets here, especially in Pennsylvania, West Virginia, Ohio, it appears, so some spotty flooding can't be ruled out. And as we move further south, there's actually some thunderstorms with this as well for South Carolina, Georgia, Florida as well. Same story there. We can't really rule out thunderstorms that bring some flash flooding with it. And then also something I was noticing is out ahead of this cold front, we see storms moving in from the south. This is very typical as warm air rushes out ahead of the cold front to the north, probably very warm for these areas. But not only that, maybe some thunderstorms and heavier showers for these areas in late October. Very interesting weather taking place. Probably feels a lot more like a late spring type of day for New England. Correct me if that's not correct, but obviously let me know if that is the case. But that's what I would imagine things are like in New England this morning and through the day today ahead of the cold front. Probably a late spring feeling day. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to move on and we're going to focus on the upcoming pattern, how these things will translate into that. So we'll see the transition and then what's kind of coming up over the next 10 days. Here we are taking a look at the upcoming storminess. And as we continue this on, we can see all the features that we've seen. As we continue this on towards this afternoon, we can see that low has really lifted up. We see the cold front somewhere in there becoming less heavy for the south as far as precipitation. The northeast corner, though, starts to really blow up with some precipitation later on. And then we see some snowfall really building in for the Rockies later this afternoon. Things are getting cooler out west, definitely bringing more and more snowfall. The overnight hours, for sure, things will be cooling down, obviously, this time of year. So that's going to be early Thursday, October 27th, tomorrow from the time I'm making this video. As we reach Friday afternoon, we can see a lot of this storminess that was up here kind of eventually just trickles its way southward. Usually when we see this type of a storm track, it curves back up. What's interesting here is we don't see that curve really. It just continues to just fall south. So pretty interesting storm track here. And that one does eventually curve northward, just very south and very late of where we usually see it take place. And this begins to bring some storminess here. This is, as we will see in a minute, going to just explode in every direction. Very interesting setup. I feel like I've said the word interesting very often in this video. But we're going to see this just completely blow up, as you will see, as we reach later into Sunday, October 30th, and definitely Halloween Day there on Monday. We will see this kind of just blow up in every direction. So you see it starts out as a small little storm down here for Oklahoma, Arkansas, Texas, Louisiana. And it ends up bringing many, many more areas, some precipitation. Florida, all the way up through the Great Lakes, Ohio Valley there. So definitely it lowers in intensity, as we can see. But as far as the amount of states involved here, the amount of counties, it definitely spreads. And it really does blow up, because when things blow up, they usually don't, come together. They usually fall apart. And that's kind of what we see with this as well. I guess there's two ways to take that. You probably imagine that it was going to actually really, really intensify, but that's not at all what I meant. As we can see for the northwest, we could see some rainfall, heavier in spots that appears this storm is coming in pretty strong. Heavier snowfall there for the Cascades, especially the northern Cascades there in Washington. So we're seeing a lot of that taking place. As we continue things on here, we see snowfall spreading throughout the Cascades into the northern Rockies as well here for Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, Utah. So many different states seeing this snowfall, and we can see it's heavier in some spots there, especially Montana and Wyoming. This is pretty late in the model run, but this is by November 2nd. Let's just pan this back because we do see that even though this storm system in the east kind of breaks up, we can see that it develops a little bit of a nor'easter that wants to do something here on this particular model run. Definitely intensifies a little bit there and brings more of a coastal storm. That's going to be later on Monday, unfortunately. So around when trick-or-treaters would be out, we're going to see this storm developing for the East Coast. Definitely bringing some nastier weather that night, especially later that night into Tuesday morning. So maybe it'll hold off a little bit later, hopefully, before intensifying too much. And this will kind of hang out throughout Tuesday and even into earlier on Wednesday. It'll be impacting New England still. This is when things get really interesting. Thursday, November 3rd. We see this storm system that was impacting the Northwest has now moved primarily into the middle of the United States. And what kind of happens here is we don't have a distinguished low, but we do get a bit of a cold front, at least temperature-wise, that is bringing some snowfall behind it, some rainfall around it. It's a pretty high precipitation cold front. And at the same time, we do see another storm system trying to move into the northwest. So as we process all of this and keep it going, we see this low does develop as a 987 millibar low pressure center. We do have a very strong and distinguished cold front underneath here. Snowfall to the north of this low here, where there's plenty of cold air. Plenty of storminess around the low as well. It is a pretty strong low. And this cold air seems to be heading in more towards the central United States. We saw this on yesterday's model run as well. We're seeing it once again. We'll take a look at the temperature pattern in just a little while. We do see snowfall starting back up for the Rockies, so plenty of snowfall in the upcoming pattern for those folks there. And this is the end of the model run, so this is all we get. But there's definitely a cold front racing to the eastern United States, and I think there's even a little bit of some signs that there's some warm air returning to the west, which would shove this cold air to the east and could be what is going to completely disrupt this pattern and switch it back to a positive PNA, potentially. Now, as far as total precipitation through the next 10 days, here we are taking a look at it. Anywhere in the whites, we're expecting practically no precipitation there. Your grays will be about 1/10 of an inch or less of precipitation. Your greens will be 1/10 of an inch to 1/2 an inch. Your blues will be 1/2 an inch to 1 inch. Your yellows will be 1 inch to 2 inches. Your reds will be 2 to 5 inches. Your browns being 5 to 10 inches of precipitation. And then even those blues there, which we see some of that for Washington and up through portions of Canada as well. That's going to be 10 to 15 inches of precipitation. So obviously quite a bit of precipitation happening throughout multiple portions of the country. Total snowfall here, a lot expected as well, because a lot of that precipitation out west is actually going to be frozen. Anywhere in the grays, we're seeing a dusting, if anything. Blues will be 2 to 6 inches of snowfall. Purples will be 6 to 10. Pinks 10 to 20. Pastel blues, like we see in the Rockies there, going to be 20 to 30 inches of snowfall. And then kind of pastel pinks and purples there going on for portions of the Cascades up through the Canadian Rockies and even British Columbia there. We see anywhere from about 30 to 48 inches plus. If you look at the bottom right, we do see a max of 179 inches of snowfall. So we can see that that pink color does go well beyond 48 inches in this case. So that's kind of just our maximum, 48. I think it should go higher, but hey, I don't own weather bells, so there's that. Here's the temperature pattern. So we'll take a look at this. We know there's a cold front currently, as we saw in the beginning of the video. So we will see that the cold air does spread eastward. But look, this is exactly what I'm talking about. Very near normal. There is some blues in there. But if we look at the color table at the very bottom, we see that's going to be about 1 to 5 degrees below normal. So not very considerable when you consider the fact that we've been much closer in the eastern United States to 1 to 10 degrees above normal, even more for some spots. It is going to feel like a big swing, maybe a 15 to 20 degree temperature swing here. But compared to what we were even seeing just, early October, even late September, we were seeing temperatures probably 10 degrees or more colder than even what we're going to be seeing here at this frame, what we're taking a look at. So just to, put everything in perspective, it's still going to be below normal temperatures or at least near normal temperatures depending on where you're at, which will be colder than things have been. This does kind of linger, but what we do see eventually happen here by Halloween day or approximately that day, we could see warmer temperatures really building into the eastern half of the nation here. Not really too cold out west, but colder than the east here, I would say by this point. Then what we see happen is some more Arctic air moves into the west. This warm air is forced into the east still, so we're still seeing these warmer temperatures by Wednesday, November 2nd, because this negative PNA that we're seeing, which is colder temperatures for the western regions of North America, by the way. That's all negative PNA means. And what this really does, because it doesn't matter what it means what it, what matters is what it does, to you guys at least probably, is when we have a negative PNA, we see the warm air move around this region into the east. We're literally seeing it here, so the proof is in the pudding, obviously. The opposite would be, I don't even know if we have an opposite here because of the pattern we've been in, but the opposite would be, you can probably imagine it, but the reds being in the west here, that'd be a positive PNA. We saw this for a long time. And instead of the air from the south moving around this region, we see the cold air from the north move around this region into the east. That would be a positive PNA. That's the two phases of PNA that you can see, and obviously it's a big, big difference for everybody in the United States. What we see happen here towards the end is very crucial. The third here, we begin to see a cold front develop. We see that this is advanced by Friday the 4th to there. And even by the time we're reaching Saturday the 5th, we can see it's advanced to here. So we can see there is a cold front, and really the front line of all of this cold air is advancing eastward Slowly but surely, day after day, each of those yellow lines representing a day where that cold front is located. So it is a slow mover, but there is evidence to suggest that perhaps after the 5th of November, which will be a Saturday, by the way, we could be seeing this cold air enter into the eastern United States. And then it's going to be a question of if we see the warm air build into the west. We can only see with time, obviously. So be sure to subscribe as we do upload every single day, and we will be paying close attention to this upcoming pattern and seeing if things can shift or not. So be sure to subscribe for those daily uploads. Be sure to like the video if you did enjoy it, by the way, and also leave a comment down below with your thoughts. I will see you guys in the next video.